Hello, everyone. So, we did it. We got Trump in office, and I've been waiting a few days because mainly I knew what was going to happen. You had all these kids who really thought like hope and diversity were on the ballot, all these platitudes. It was a whole campaign based on platitudes, so it failed. The reaction, the drama. Um, so now the new narrative, of course, is white nationalism, alt-right, white supremacy everywhere. The media has doubled down. So in honor of this, I have a poem for you guys I would like to share before we get into everything. So let me try to go through it here. Brown is not human. In fact, brown skin is subhuman. All phenotypes exist within the white family, and the white people, or the brown people, are a genetic defect of whiteness. White people have a higher concentration of enzyme purifiers that suppress melanin production. They are genetically superior because melanin is present at the inception of life. Melanin is directly linked to fertility and the human reproductive system. Lack of melanin is directly linked to strong bones. Lack of melanin is directly linked to the strength of the nervous system. Lack of melanin is directly linked to the strength of senses such as vision and hearing. This lack of melanin is directly linked to the strength of the neurosystems affecting capacities like intelligence, memory, and creativity, and a lack of melanin enables white skin to capture light and hold it in its memory mode, which reveals that whiteness converts light into knowledge. Whiteness converts light into knowledge. That's an echo. This lack of melanin directly communicates with cosmic energy. This is why the ingenuity of all humanity comes from whiteness. We are the first and the strongest of all humans, and our genetics are the foundation of all humanity. The lack of melanin is essential for the efficient performance of all the body's natural functions. Therefore, black people are recessive genetic defects. This is factual. Brown people need black supremacy as a mechanism to protect their survival as a people because all they can do is produce themselves. White people, simply through their dominant genes, can literally wipe out the entire collective of other races if we had the power to do. It is why brown supremacy is an imperial system thrives. It tries to control, suppress, and destroy the existence in whiteness because we are a threat to their genetic annihilation of brown people. Do you ever wonder how white people, after centuries of colonial violence, genocide, and destruction, no matter what systems created to make us extinct, now we keep coming back? It is because we are superhumans. That's my ode to white nationalism unveiling. And if you didn't know, that's actually a poem written by one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter Toronto, and all I did was switch the skin colors. And this is the craziest part of this whole narrative that's being put forth, is this branding of the alt-right as a white nationalist, white supremacist group, when I would just more so see the alt-right as being an umbrella for all the non-mainstream Republican types. Maybe a group of that might be white nationalists, maybe, but it's the same way we sort of see the fringe left social justice warriors and that whole bit where you actually have these groups called Black Lives Matter, La Raza, which means the race, which are race. So what one is completely accepted and allowed out in the open and championed and looked at as, oh, this is some good thing, this is empowering this group, and the other is just viewed in this cartoonish level of fear that, and I'm not condoning, I'm not for any of this shit. I think it's all divisive. It's all this sort of Marxism of dividing everyone by these. It's all nonsense, and I wish it would all stop. But this is their big thing. And I found this amazing article, actually, that goes through all of it. I believe Andrew Clavin tweeted it, and I caught it. And this is like the great source of information and knowledge as far as this whole bit goes. You can check it out right here, SlatestarCodex.com. You're Still Crying Wolf. And just kind of goes through, and it starts out with the wolf cry. When honorable and decent men like McCain and Romney are reflexively dubbed racist for simply opposing Democratic policies, the result is a GOP electorate that doesn't listen to admonitions when the genuine article is in their midst. And it goes through, I have a different perspective back in October 2015 when I wrote to picture Trump as the white power candidate and first openly white supremacist candidate to have a shot at the presidency in modern era was overblown. I said that the media narrative that Trump is doing some kind of special appeal to white voters voodoo is unsupported by any polling data, and predicted that if Trump were the Republican nominee, he could probably court on equal or greater support for minorities as Romney or McCain before him. And that's exactly what happened. Trump got more minority vote than anyone else, as far as Republican-wise, in the past history. He only got 1% more white male vote. So this whole claim that it's a white lash and it's a taking back of the country by white people, and this whole this is like a crazy level when this whole article breaks it down, and it's lengthy. I'm not going through all of it. You don't need me to read it for you guys, but look it up because it has the actual numbers of how many people, him going through Hispanics, his love for them, LGBT people. Mainstream conservatives complain about him was he's a Democrat from New York. So, but here it is. Like, look at this. Openly racist, openly, and these are all links to articles. Like, it's just, they just say it. I have Democrat friends who just say he's openly racist. And there's nothing openly racist coming out. And it says this I think is the first level of crying wolf. What if one day there's a candidate who hates black people so much that he doesn't go on a campaign stop to a traditionally black church in Detroit, talk about all of the contributions black people have made to America, promise to fight for black people, and say his campaign is about opposing racism in all its forms? What if there's a candidate who does something more like, say, go to a KKK meeting and say that black people are inferior and only whites are real Americans? We might want to use the phrase, words like openly racist or openly white supremacist to describe him, and at that point, nobody will listen because we wasted openly white supremacist on the guy who tweets pictures of himself eating a taco on Cinco de Mayo saying, "I love Hispanics." It's so over the top. And I've lost friends over this shit because people I actually cared about, and the vitriol and hatred they have because they're viewing things in this strictly tribal manner. Like, there will be no, like, this person was talking to me and had, like, no respect for me, and the only personal bit there was all just used in, like, underhanded jabs. Like, you're a bad person because of this, and because of this, and it's like, you feel this way over politics, and you're calling me an asshole, and ignorant, and burnt out, and all this other nonsense? Pfft. Ridiculous. And it's at one level of just dealing with facts and being like, I want to see some data on this. Where's quote? What do you have? And it's like, he's just openly white supremacist. And if I say it's open, then you're the moron for not being able to see it. And it's like, these conspiracy theories, and that's the other crazy part, is the level of conspiracy coming out of people. Like, in the same argument, I had someone where I was like, they're paying some of these protesters, and I'll show you a thing in a bit, which is how they do this, the PSYOP stuff. Well, actually, I'll just pull it up right now. I fooled America with fake news stories, and I got Trump elected. And it's a guy that goes through, and this is propaganda 101. Hitler wrote about this in Mein Kampf. Or I think so. There was a thing about the bigger the lie, the better. But there's also a thing where if you want someone to believe a lie, the best thing to do is to have it be true. Like, to have it, wrap it up in a way, say it verbalize it in a way so that it can be true. Or it could just outright, The Onion does this, where there's FEMA documents about concentration camps and all this shit, and then they'll do a fake news piece looking like it's C-SPAN, seeming like it could be that. So if you're using Craigslist to hire crisis actors and, actors for protests, the stuff going on in Project Veritas, if someone makes a fake article, takes a picture of it, and puts it out on Facebook, why wouldn't everyone circulate it and think it's true? It's what they do. It's what they do. It's actually been caught, like, numerous times. The fact that people think this is a new idea, like a crisis actor, or, propaganda agents, there's documentaries where they talk about the different revolutions in other cities where they've done this, where they use social media, hire some actors, make it look like a city was overthrown, and show it as a propaganda piece to demoralize people or to stir up a revolution. This shit gets done. Like, there's no gotcha with this. If people know about it, they know about it. But a guy puts out a fake one. So then they can point to the fake one and deny all of them. Because it was fake this once, it has to be fake all the time. Hashtag not all, though. Not all. I mean, this way of looking at things is so rigid and just, I mean, in same conversation, I'm like, Veritas video shows him talking about getting in this Donald Duck outfit. Like, we know some of these people are paid to be out there. It's called Democratic operatives. It's what goes on. And they're like, well, James O'Keefe doesn't release the raw footage and the uncut stuff. And mind you, you've never asked for raw, uncut footage from anything else, over anything else. I'm sure of it. The media has put this idea out there. The same media that's never shown you raw footage of anything. That will interview their own cameramen, and that will hold an interview looking like they're in two different places and it's opposite sides of the same parking lot. CNN did both of those. So the O'Keefe thing, they're also like, well, they could just be quoted in a way where the context could be twisted and it could look like someone did something when really they were saying they could have, or, hypothetical. I said, oh, you know what that sounds like? There's this tape that came out where this rich and famous guy was talking about when you're rich and famous, women throw you at you, they're groupies, and, you could do anything. You could just grab them by the pussy. And all of a sudden, he's getting accused of sexually assaulting people because of him throwing out this hypothetical that you could when you're at that level, that there are women that come that easy. I mean, surprise? I thank feminism and the sexual revolution for that. I mean, that's what just started discouraging chastity. So that falls back on the left, that there are women that will do this. Who are you mad? The guy that's giving the women what they want? That's why they're there. They didn't come to the back of the tour bus to play Scrabble. I mean, this is groupies. Been going on forever. No surprise. So, that's how one of the narratives, fake news stuff, oh, this is fake, can't trust this. Fake news, the war on fake news now. But back to this. If you go through the KKK, which they're trying to say Trump's, group is the KKK, it's white supremacists, it's this, goes through, And he says, if you look, the numbers for the KKK, as far as their membership is around 3,000, while Southern Poverty Law doubles it at 6,000. 6,000! That could fit in a hotel. You'd have extra rooms. That's nothing. The country of 319 million or something. It just goes through, and then it's like, if you take the numbers of all the other alt-right, white supremacists, take these numbers, take 4chan, it still doesn't reach anything. It estimates it at most at like 50,000, and then says that's still only 0.02% of the population. It's the same as the Nation of Islam, less than the Church of Satan. So it's nothing. This group that they're trying to claim, it has no data behind it. All the hate crime stuff, most of them are hoaxes, and it's going on both ways. It's all just divisive, and they're doubling it down. And it goes through all the stuff, the whole David Duke thing. I mean, it's so ridiculous that you're responsible for whoever endorses you. Hillary took money from the KKK. You can Google that shit. The Washington Post has it. She took $20,000 from them. I guarantee you she didn't denounce them. She didn't give it back. It doesn't make any sense. And realistically, if you listen to David Duke and listen to like Farrakhan, like I'll go to all the people that are on the fringes. I want to hear what everyone has to say. You can't know what you dislike until you know it. I mean, not that I'm paying that close of attention, but I've looked into what policy issues the KKK votes on, and who founded them, and it's Democrat the whole way around it. If you look, they always vote for abortion and welfare because that's what keeps minorities under. Trump is against those things. If people understood what's going on a policy level, they'd say, why is the KKK endorsing him? He doesn't support any of their platforms. But no one's paying attention to that. David Duke, as far as the shit he says, you hear the same shit out of Farrakhan. Everyone has, and I don't hear any of them, David Duke has his issue against, having too much Jewish influence on white people. Farrakhan doesn't like having too much white influence on black people. It's let people do their own thing. Let them interact in their own ways. Let's stop the social engineering bullshit. Just let it happen. If people want to separate, they'll separate. But I don't think most people are going to. I don't think there's ever been that many racists in America. That's why they had to make laws enforcing it. If people I try to tell people, think of this. Government doesn't want you texting and driving, right? So they make a law, don't do it, or we'll take money from you. Government doesn't want you smoking weed, so they make a law, don't do it, or we'll take some money from you. Government doesn't want you doing a lot of things, so what did they say? Don't do it, or we'll take some money from you. We might lock you up. And remember, we got the guys with guns on our side, and they're going to point a gun at the whole way while we're telling you to do what we say, and, that's what it is. So, if everyone in America were such vile, evil racists, why did they have to make a law telling everyone to stay separated, segregate, don't integrate, and we're going to punish people who do because we're the guys with the guns? Why did it have to be forced if everyone was just going to act this way anyway? I mean, it defies the logic that you can establish with all the other laws. Anyway, so yeah, this article goes through the whole thing. Every question someone could say, it has an answer that you can just give right back. But this identity politics, stop turning everything into identity politics. The only thing the media has been able to do for last 5 years is shout identity politics, identity politics, identity politics, identity politics at everything. And then when the right wing finally says, identity politics, you freak out and figure that the only way they could ever possibly learn that phrase is from the KKK. Stop calling Trump voters racist, a metaphor we have freedom of speech, not because all speech is good, but because temptation to ban speech is so great that unless given a blanket prohibition, it would slide into universal censorship of any unpopular opinion. Likewise, I recommend you stop calling Trump voters racist, not because none of them are, but because as soon as you give yourself that opportunity, it's a slippery slope down to anyone who disagrees with me on anything, does so entirely out of raw seething hatred, and my entire outgroup is secret members of the KKK, and so I am justified in considering them worthless human trash. I'm not saying you're teetering on edge of that slope. I'm saying you're at the bottom, covered by dozens of feet of fallen rocks and snow. I also hear the accusing people of racism constantly for no reason is the best way to get them to vote your candidate next way around, assuming there is a next time. Stop centering criticism of Donald Trump around this sort of stuff and switch to literally anything else. Here's an incompetent, thin-skinned, arrogant, boorish, fraudulent, omni-hypocritical demagogue with no idea how to run a country whose philosophy of governance basically boils down to I'm going to win and not lose, details to be filled in later, and all you can do is repeat again and again how he seems unpopular among weird internet teenagers who post frog memes in the middle of an emotional, incontinent reality TV show host getting his hand on the nuclear button. Your chief complaint is that in the middle of a few dozen denunciations of the KKK, he once delayed denouncing the KKK for an entire 24 hours before going back to denouncing it again. When a guy who says outright that he won't respect elections unless he wins them does somehow win an election, the headlines are how he once said he didn't like globalists, which means he must be anti-Semitic. Stop making people suicidal. Stop telling people they are going to be killed. Stop terrifying children. Stop giving racism free advertising. Stop trying to convince Americans that all other Americans hate them. Stop, stop, stop. And that's the best advice. Stop, stop, stop. But the media is not. And you even see things like this. Now, I'm sure this wouldn't come up in this fake news ban that they're trying to establish. But in case people forgot how peacefully people accepted Obama's election in 2008. And Obama, where's your papers? A burning effigy. Kenyon is missing his village idiot. Deport Obama. And if you see, the signs are talking about Obamacare, Obamacare, hang in there, Obama. And the people first picked this from 2013, 2010, 2009, 2009, and 2012. The dates are from all over. It's not genuine. So, war on fake news now. College students came up with a system on Facebook and other internet platforms where now you'll have your links popped up with this little verified or not verified. And you know, Lacey Green posted a thing as far as the Trump reaction about how, you know, her first post, people have been sharing this, where it was like an hour before the election was over, and it was like, America, we're so divided, we're gonna hang in there, and we're gonna work this out. And then Trump gets elected, and she's like, oh my God, America is under complete Republican, textbook fascism, white supremacy, control, like, all hell is breaking loose. And the thing about textbook fascism, I don't understand what these people are talking about. Like, or they don't understand what they're talking about. It's not the other way around. This term fascism gets thrown around a lot. And You know, you look at like the symbol of a fasci, where it's like a bundle of sticks tied together, to an axe handle, and it's because of the idea that it will be stronger with all the sticks tied together rather than one absorbing the impact. And that's what I think these identity politics things are. It's when you're like comparing blacks against whites, whites against Mexicans, men against women. It's these, like, having a group of politicians with these axes that are all these groups just tied together with the axe handle, and they're just whacking them and whacking them and whacking them against each other and trying to see whose axe is going to break first and do some crazy shit. And I mean, I think that's what you see in like Black Lives Matter, when you have these cities just get turned up and shit comes down. Like, it's out of control. And then the fact that you have paid operatives kind of in the mix of it all, you know, and I had to explain this to friends who were like, yeah, but all of them are paid? And I'm like, no, not all. Remember? Not all Mexicans are, not all rapists are, not all Hispanics are, not all. You say it all the time. Not all. Not all of them are paid. It only takes a handful of them to lead around 100 morons. Like, it's probably one per every, I don't know, 80 people or so. Like, they're just in there. This is what do you think the CIA does? Oh, you think it does spy James Bond secret shit like in the movies? Maybe a little here and there, but you got a ground level intelligence operatives. Like, I don't know where people. What do you think they're doing? So, not all the protesters are paid, just some of them. Forget where I was going with that. But anyway, this fake news bit. This woman came up with a list, and if you see the list, everyone from Lou Rockwell, InfoWars, Breitbart. Breitbart is now a white supremacist site, apparently. And, you know, this whole, their anti-Semitic thing, I have that pulled. I guess I'm doing all my videos in one. I was going to separate them all, but... So yeah, this one come out, her list. The list isn't in this. I know InfoWars had it. But she's talking about, you know, having them categorized and how many people are getting their, you know, info from Facebook. Oh, fascism, yeah. So, you have this sort of left-wing government shit, and then you have these left-wing sort of business things, where there was also an alt-right purge on Twitter this week, where now that they've branded the alt-right, they can just, that's the name for the enemy, the alt-right, and it's going to expand, and they're going to think that if you're part of this alternative right, well, you're not a Republican, you're a Nazi, basically. That's how they're trying. You know, people are bumper sticker politics. They don't know what the fuck is going on. And you'll have them quoting from a Breitbart article about the alt-right that breaks down the alt-right, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, there is a little bit of, you know, this going on in some of it, and then there's some of it who just kind of do it as like a trolling joke behind the anonymity of the internet. Like, meanwhile, you have women on CNN saying people are gonna have to die on both sides. This is a revolution. Like, they have calls for violence, and then they're like, oh, someone shared a Pepe Hitler meme. It's so ridiculous. But they're having Twitter and Facebook enforce this sort of censorship. It's like a soft form of it. And just hide it, and, you know, everything like that, so the government doesn't have to come out and ban it. That's the fascism that's going on. This merging of the government with the online businesses that should be able to have, you know, whatever regulations they choose, but they make their politics known. And there were articles coming out of, what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg being criticized because he allowed fake news, and it must have been the fake news that led to Trump being elected. It couldn't have been the campaigning or, the speeches or anything he actually did. It had to have been the fake news because all of his supporters are so dumb that that's the only way it could have been. Like, it's weird. The left is like, it's Alex Jones was saying it's to punch you in the face and then tell you they didn't hit you. And it's like, they're really putting out this idea through this stuff. Oh, well, it was the fake news that led him to get elected. That's them basically saying that it wasn't something grounded in reality. Like, there was no way he could have, he couldn't really have won. Like, it has to be that many people in the country are not existing in a world based on reality. Mind you, and they're the same people. Oh, well, you're a climate denier. You're a this denier. You're a that denier. You're a anti-vaxxer conspiracy. Like, they have all of these dismissive terms where it's like, oh, I can just call you this name and that shuts you down. I'm not going to try to get into the issues of it and, why I ridicule you over it, but I can just call you this and throw this little bumper sticker at you, and then you're going to shut up because that's all I need to do to appeal to someone else on my level who's just been hit with it because I'm in a cult. Like, that's what it is, and it's really creepy behavior. I think, I don't see how cult-like behavior sort of fits with Republicans because of the value system. And, it's like, yeah, there's different sects of Christianity and everything like this, but liberalism is so woven into pop culture that it becomes more and more conformist. Like, I think you have, in the Republican side of things, you have a lot of variation. And you even saw that at the election, where you had all these people from all these different walks of life and, different ethnicities and genders and the whole bit. One of these articles, I don't know if I went through it, even had Caitlyn Jenner come out and say that, she had been discriminated against more for being a conservative than being a tranny. And that's the truth. That's because it's a very leftist-leaning culture. Culture is driven by Hollywood. Speaking of which, Jay-Z and Beyonce are a bunch of coons, and it's coming out on the internet, and I think it's great, because I've always kind of thought this way, ever since, online, and I would see people using this accusation, and I'd be like, wait, your idea of real is the guy who lies about his past, claiming he's a murdering drug dealer, criminal kingpin, who throws all this out in the open, but never gets caught, and just makes millions and billions of dollars, and then kisses up to Bill Gates and the Clintons, and, all this other stuff. The Clintons signed the crime bill. And that's why black people are now looking at Jay and Beyonce and being like, oh, they went out there shucking and jiving like a bunch of house, So I'm hoping this goes on where, here, let me tie this into my stuff with Bannon. There are these, oh yeah, here it is. Hillary Clinton leader claims KKK has given $20,000 to the Clinton campaign. For the KKK, Clinton is our choice. And that's over the issues. So you have this whole bit with Bannon now coming under fire. And it's funny because if you look at older articles, like here's one from just a few months ago. This man is the most dangerous political operative in America. And it goes on about the new vast right-wing conspiracy, and he wants to take down both Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. It says Bannon is the executive of Breitbart News, the crusading right-wing populist website that's lineal descent of the Drudge Report. And it goes through his whole bit. And there's not really this, how he's mentioned now. If you look, every headline has white nationalist, anti-Semitic, domestic violence, turn on hate, white nationalists. Like, you just have it alt-right, they're trying to conflate these three things when they don't really have a basis for any of them. And there was an interview on CNN, where the guy, Don Lemon, is it that one? Where, Don Lemon is talking to this guy, and he's talking about Bannon being a white nationalist, and the guy goes through and he debunks all their handful of points, and then at the end of it, he's like, well, I'm good, we squared that point away, now we know he's not a white nationalist. And Don Lemon goes, well, just because he says he isn't, doesn't mean I know that he is, or it's like, he says he isn't, but just because I don't know he isn't, doesn't mean I don't know that he is. Or something weird like that. Where it was like, just because he said he isn't, I don't know if he is, and I don't know if he isn't. Like, you'll have to check it out. But and basically implies that it doesn't matter if you say you're not a white supremacist, you still could be one. Like, just because you say you aren't one doesn't mean you aren't. Like, it's so ridiculous. And really getting so see-through. But it's even in his Wikipedia thing where it has right down here. On the other hand, Ben Shapiro, who didn't really leave with Breitbart on great terms, from what I've heard. Ben Shapiro, Bernard Marcus of the Republican Jewish Coalition, Zionist Organization of America, David Horowitz defended Bannon against the anti-Semitism allegations. So, this is just how they're smearing these people to low intelligence voters. Here's an article in the Daily Beast about the guy having a conversation with Bannon. Oh, first, there's this. Think Progress. I was going through their article, and it looks like it's all very well, cited and everything like that. But you go through some of these citations of the racism, and it's like, someone overheard someone on the phone remembering them saying they heard someone say the N-word. And it's like this, what? Like, it's this giant, someone overheard someone say the N-word about someone. It's like such a telephone game that it's like, oh, so you have nothing. You have some accusation by a third party. Like, this wouldn't hold up in court. Like, about why everyone's a white nationalist. Now, if you've ever said anything that could be misconstrued as racist, you're a white nationalist. Like, this stuff is just crazy. And it really makes me wonder, though, if there's like I hate to sound paranoid, but between the riots and it makes me wonder if there's some war game scenario. Like, why are they pushing these labels now? Like, I feel like there's a branding going on of, if you're a Trump supporter, you're a white nationalist. You're in that 0.02% of the population that no one likes, doesn't appeal to anything. In that other article, when you're reading through it, there's a really great bit where he goes on about this, and he says, they're claiming that these people are dog whistling to this ultra minority of the country that no one likes, no one wants to be a part of, everyone's disgusted with. The majority of people are so against it, and you somehow think in this warped reality you've concocted that there's enough white nationalists to bring Trump to power, or there were enough idiots to bring him to power who are believing news that isn't real about rat meat coming from China or something. Like, this is why I hate liberals. The self-righteousness, there's no humility. You can't look at things like that. 5 names, 3 given away to white supremacists. Anyone who thought that, I mean, you used to have to, like, be a Klansman to be a white supremacist. Now they're just white supremacists. Trump administration will be white nationalism. This shit is ridiculous. And their, like, website seems dedicated to it. You can tell what they got their issues with. But you even have Ben Shapiro and others defending him. Here's this article about Bannon wanting to be a Leninist to destroy the state. And, you know, one of the things, you guys can read this for yourself. I'm just going to speak on it. People get really odd. Again, it's probably low information people. And like I was saying about the Klan, when you understand the psychology of bad guys, and I mean, this is kind of what occultism is all about, understanding good and evil, duality, things like that, lightness and darkness, black and white. You know, you just know your enemy. Like, so when I'm talking about things and I'm like, oh, I think this was said by Hitler, it's not that I'm, you know, reading Mein Kampf before I go to bed, but I've looked into these things. So if this sort of evil ever comes my way, I'm going to know it. Like, the reality is, some of them, like Hitler, I'm not sure about Lenin, but most of these dictators get voted in. Like, they rise to power in a populist fashion. We've seen that happen. But it's what they're pushing, what they're actually saying. Not you trying to infuse something and see it where it isn't because you're some crazy Marxist and see everything through this Marxist lens where the ultimate evil is the, you know, white capitalist male. Like, it just makes no sense. But as far as him saying he's a Leninist who wants to just destroy the state and everything like that, yeah, I hope the state does destroy itself. I hope there's a whole revolution in media. I hope people tell Miley Cyrus, Katy Perry, Jay-Z, Beyonce to go fuck themselves. I hope people tell Whoopi Goldberg and Rosie O'Donnell to go fuck themselves. I hope they tell Wanda Sykes and Seth Meyers to go fuck themselves. Trevor Noah, go fuck yourself. All the politicians, the establishment, go fuck yourselves. Don Lemon, Van Jones, Rachel Maddow, go fuck yourselves. Like, we really should. I hope the whole thing burns down too, and that we can restock it with people who actually have something interesting to say. Or it's just going to continue moving over to the internet. You're going to have a sort of, you know, what's been going on. The mainstream media is going to end up collapsing. Yeah, and they just keep going. Like, they didn't learn anything. That you can't just shame people into doing things. And that's a really great sign. Trevor Noah, shame on you, Paul Ryan. See, this is their tactic. Shame, shame, shame. And then if you ever shame them, it's, whoa, you're victim blaming. There was what was the thing? A really good clip. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. CNN. The guys are talking about the hate crimes afterwards, most of them being fake and everything like that. And the guy mentions, oh, well, there was one where, you know, 2 black kids jumped a white girl or something. And the guy all of a sudden is like, whoa, why are you bringing up race? Why, you just did an hour show on hate crimes and we're talking about nothing but identity politics. And now when we say it, I mean, it's the quote from that first article, when the conservatives bring up identity politics, it's like, whoa, or why are you must be a racist. Why'd you even think they're black? Like, it's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. And these people have lost their fucking minds. Lost their minds. Schools with Play-Doh and therapy dogs and shit. What the weird. I used to think we were doomed, but now it looks like we'll be doing alright, but going to be a lot of people to drag along the way, I suppose, as far as making America great. Looks like that's happening. So I guess I'm done for now. I got through all the shit I wanted to point to and talk about, I suppose. Here's a few more articles. Clickbait, satirical news. Some of them. Here's one coming out from a right-wing people to left-wing sources. I mean, these are all the ones you see being spread on Facebook. And then, mind you, the mainstream media, like I said, two opposite sides of a parking lot, interviewing your cameraman. Hillary's going to win? There's no way Donald Trump can win? Do those sound like familiar terms? You've only been saying them all year long. Weapons of mass destruction? There's actually a really good, if you search around on YouTube, North Korea, because they don't like us, and they're, one of these states where when their leader goes off, they start crying and doing all this. It's really funny comparing the Hillary's loss to the North Koreans, but they actually put out a really good film against Western culture and our news media and everything like that, and point to all of it as propaganda, and it's really interesting. And some of the stuff, they're only allowed to see for the sake of observing it in this sort of, these are our enemy mentality. But it's very interesting, again, to give you a look at things from another perspective. So I'd recommend checking that out. But these, like, everything now is fake news except the mainstream media. I guess it's not fake, but it's just been lying to your fucking faces. Lying to your fucking faces. Making people think that America is filled to the brim with racist, sex. I mean, these are thought crimes. That's the thing that bothers me about them. Like, I think they're all awful and deplorable and a position of ignorance. But I'm not worried about other people's thoughts or their unconscious biases and their inherent biases. I mean, because then how do you fix that? Oh, well, then you have to social engineer society to make it so the world they grow in, their subconscious is affected by. And I thought everyone dismissed Freud. I thought all the subconscious stuff was bullshit. Oh, no. Only subconscious subliminal messaging is bullshit. Everything else are subconscious biases. Oh, those are everything. Like, it makes no sense. And these people never see the hypocrisy, where they're cool with something on one side, and the moment it's on the other, it's like, so tiring. But I'll have new content coming up with Paul soon, a part 2 on part 2 on the Comet Pizza Ping Pong pedophile spirit cooking nonsense. And I don't know. I'll try to find something interesting to talk about, but this shit is just obnoxious. I really wish the media would have fixed itself up at the end of the election, but I guess some people are not so good at learning from their mistakes. So, good night, everyone.